recovery, training, eating, sleeping is all for that 1,400-pound bench.
Mm-hmm.
Currently,
Yeah.
I am trying to accomplish that 1,400-pound bench.
Mm-hmm.
That is where all the focus is. Everything I do every day, recovery, training, eating, whatever the fuck it is, sleeping, is all for that 1,400-pound bench.
Mm-hmm.
That's the that's the short-term goal. Long-term, I describe long-term as being like maybe it's too short, like 1 to 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
give or take. I've with my recent training, with my recent accomplishments, I've made it public. I truly do think a 1,500-pound, 3/4 ton bench is humanly possible, whether I do it or somebody else does it, because anything can happen, right? But that is like the long term, but also my ultimate goal.
Mm-hmm.
The number, because I've never one of our things with Kolb Strong is never enough. It's never been enough, never is. But I feel like I finally reached that point where 1,500 would be where I could say I am truly happy with that, and I can move on and pursue other things like full power.
Mm-hmm.
That's the number. Now,
Full power. And you just sat here and told me.
no, I'm being serious. Yeah, I've gotten partly coerced into it, partly not. I want to get back into it. Again, I have so many goals in bench right now that I can't divert.
No, I was going to say, you can't even think about it.
No, because my heaviest training lift was within 37 pounds of 1,500 pounds. Like I'm tasting these numbers right now. It's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately for me, one of my good and bad qualities is whenever I set a goal, I will not stop until I do it, no matter how much of it sucks or I hate it.
Mm-hmm.
So the 1,500-pound bench numbers, I got goals in poly as well for bench press. I want to get back to, but even like full power, so I'm going to do it eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With your training, and you've changed it, and we'll talk about that a little bit, but I'm going to make some assumptions first, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong.
Sure.
Is part of the reason why you had to change it, and I use the word carryover hesitantly because there's a bigger carryover in the band than compared to single ply. So your single ply bench shirt is, I'm just going to guess. I'm going to speak for you. Let's say your single ply right now, if you got acclimated to it, could be 1,100, close to that.
Sure. Yeah.
Maybe a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you could train raw more effectively for that than you could a 1,500 out of a band shirt, because the difference between, now granted, I know your position on raw and I agree with it 1,000%, right? 1,000%.
Sweet.
But let's say if hypothetically, your raw bench is 800 pounds, 750, whatever it's going to be.
Okay.
That discrepancy between 750 and 1,500 is big, which
Right.
means you have to train
Yes.
in something all the time, right? So
You're
if
right
you
on the money, yeah.
So if you go, when I was at Westside, we never used gear. We only used it at meet. Well, the carryover that's part of the reason why our carryover sucked,
Minimal,
right?
yeah.
Where if we would have used it more, then it would have had more of a payoff. But what if the carryover potential is so much higher, you almost can never not use it? Mm-hmm. Because how do you, percent-wise, like if you say you didn't use it, how do you even train? Because all your weights then are going to have to be under 700 pounds.
Yeah. The gap,
Half.
dude, the gap is too big.
Yeah.
That's why, A, I don't care about raw. B,
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it to please others.
Well, C, you can't afford to do it.
No.
Because that just gap.
Yeah, the gap is like, why would I train with 4, 5, 6, maybe 700 when I'm trying to bench 14, 1,500?
Yeah.
We're talking almost close to 1,000 pounds less than my goal.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
So then, see, with that gap, that becomes weird. Like, so how do you navigate and train with that gap?
It's a little bit different between poly and then the band shirts. So right now I'm in the band thing, or the band game, we'll call it the band.
Yeah.
There's a lot more emphasis on. So I've always been a fan of I call it consistent overload. Again, I don't cycle, I don't peak, I don't do any of that stuff. I just train heavy year round.
Yes.
With some minor adjustments, maybe a little bit lighter on this day, low on that day. So with poly and band shirts, I do overload all the time regardless. Now with the polys, there was a little more emphasis, a little more need for the upper end raw. So like your raw 2, 3, 4 boards. When I was younger, I used to follow, well, one of several lifters was Sean Latimer. And he would do low end raw, top end shirt. And of course, me being young and influential, I'm like, oh, I'll do that. Didn't fucking work at all. I couldn't touch weights. I'd bomb out of meat. It was just bad. So I flipped it a while ago, and I started doing low end shirt, top end raw, and that really worked. That worked excellent, leading up to that big poly number that I hit in 21, or 22, whatever it was. So now the band shirts, because the weights are so much heavier, consistently heavier than they are in poly, there was a lot less need for like the top end raw, and I needed to just handle heavy weights like 1,000-pound floor presses and whatever to build that strength, that capability of handling the 13, 14, 1,500 pound loads. That's mostly where the difference between the two anyway.
So if it's consistently always overload, is that both the bench days of the week?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And then how do you auto-regulate that? So how do you know when to back it down, when not to back it down? Just based upon your warm-ups?
When I feel like shit.
Yeah.
Some days when I feel like shit, I have excellent days.
Well, that's where I want to go. Like, how do you walk me through a day where you have to pivot and go less?
Okay. So, for example, my I don't have a shirted and a raw day. I have a shirted and a not shirted day. That's how I structure it.
Yeah, okay.
So I'll on the not shirted day, I'll just have I'll wear something, but it's not a shirt. It's like a slinger or a couple of inserts.
Yeah.
Just not a full shirt with a belly on it, whatever. So if I have I don't usually know what I'm doing until I get to the parking lot. I'm like, let's see, what could be cool? What could be fun? What could be, say, fun but also productive? Not just going in there to bullshit. I'm always trying to move forward. If I'm going in there with a predetermined goal that I figure out pretty much on the spot, maybe it's really heavy weight, maybe it's board, I don't know what it is, it's really heavy. If I do honestly feel like shit, if something's not working, or in the very rare circumstances I don't have enough people, I have no choice but to pivot, I'll go, okay, I came here for a reason. That reason is not going to happen. I don't dwell on it. I don't get pissed off. I don't whatever. I just, okay, I brush that aside. I take a different direction. So what am I capable of doing today? Maybe it's not doing, reps with 1,000 pounds on the floor press or on the boards or dead stop presses, whatever it is. So that's sometimes where I'll do, banded rack lockouts where I can have no spotters at all. That's still going to train that upper end, stuff. Or on the rare circumstances where I do the rep out sets that piss everybody off, which is funnier than hell. Which are just personal challenges. Okay, well, 6 months ago I did 700 for 30. Let's just try that. If the number goes up, or if I match the number or it goes up, I know something's getting better. Can I pinpoint it? Probably not, but something is getting better in my training. I'm moving forward. So that's kind of how it works. If it's really based on how I feel. If I start warming up and things are getting heavy and they feel like dog shit, I'm like, okay, it's probably not going to happen. Scrap that. Let's do something else.
Well, it's also on your, like you said, it's on your environment, right? So if certain people aren't going to be there, you may not have the 3-man lift out that you're going to need. So instead of risking it, you're not going to do that. If it's a different gym and you don't have kilo plates or the bar, or obviously you're not going to say, fuck it, I'm going to do this.
Right. No, at that we're to that point where there is no, let's just fucking try it, because if something happens. I remember when I was about 2 years deep into the Marines. We were at a gym and I had a little bit of an oopsie and I dropped 405 on my chest from full lockout. It slipped out of my hands. It came down, it bounced, it came back down a second time. I fractured ribs, I pulverized my soft tissue, I fractured my thumb. That was 405. What's going to happen with 1,400 pounds? It ain't no joke.
No.
It's a hardcore thing. So that there is no just, let's just try it. No, it has to. It's structured. It has to. There's no choice now.